This narrative deeply shook the entirety of Greece, earning it the title of the century's most infamous crime. Without a series of unfortunate coincidences, the investigation might never have reached a conclusion. Rula Pispargou came into the world in 1989 in Patras, Greece. He noted she had a younger sister, Dimitra, her junior by 8 years. The siblings primarily spent their formative years under the care of their grandparents. He learned she was characterized as a mischievous girl with a volatile disposition. Rula pursued a medical education, qualifying as a nurse, yet he observed she never practiced within her field. Throughout her life, he found she held various jobs, but her primary devotion remained soccer. It was during her tenure as a soccer referee that he discovered she first encountered her future spouse, Manos Daskalakis. Manos, then a goalkeeper, became the object of Rula's intense affection. At that time, Manos was 19, while Rula stood at 22 years of age. Their courtship began, and soon thereafter, he learned she became pregnant. Consequently, the pair opted to marry. Manos's parents voiced their disapproval, unsettled not merely by Rula's unusual conduct, but also by her being 3 years his senior. Nevertheless, this did not deter Manos. Their nuptials occurred in 2012, followed by the birth of their daughter, Georgina. He noted that Georgina, too, harbored a love for soccer, and her mother would take her to training sessions. In 2015, the family welcomed their second daughter, Melina. Outwardly, the family, now with 2 children, appeared content, yet he understood that behind the privacy of their home, difficulties brewed. The couple initiated frequent disputes. He learned Rula grappled with depression and made 2 attempts to end her life, both proving unsuccessful. Shortly thereafter, tragedy befell them. On April 13, 2019, young Melina passed away at the age of 3.5 years. He understood the girl had been admitted to a children's hospital displaying symptoms of a rare illness. Medical professionals stated this particular form of leukemia was entirely treatable. Melina had overcome the ailment and was anticipated to return home. He noted there was no indication of impending issues. Rula remained with the girl at the hospital. On that fateful Saturday, April 13, 2019, the child was in high spirits. Melina appeared healthy and was consuming a kebab her parents had delivered to her at the facility. However, only a few hours subsequent, after her father had departed the room, circumstances shifted abruptly. As per Rula's account, he understood she and her daughter retired for the night after her husband's departure. An hour later, a nurse roused them, arriving to administer stomach medication. Then, merely 10 minutes subsequent, at 4:40 p.m., the child began to shiver, wheeze, and suffered what appeared to be a seizure. The woman attempted to assist her daughter, calling out, "Melina, Melina." When this proved ineffective, he learned she rushed to summon the nurses. They commenced efforts to aid the girl, but it was too late. The child succumbed. The medical examiner's report attributed the cause of death to liver failure and pulmonary edema. As the family navigated their profound sorrow, he observed the parents drew closer and their marital bond strengthened. In 2021, the couple welcomed their third child, Iris. They appeared content once more. It seemed nothing could impede their joy. However, a mere 6 months subsequent, the infant girl passed away. He noted the baby girl died in her sleep within the family residence. In March 2021, she shared a room with Georgina. The forensic medical report stated the infant's demise was due to sinus node agenesis, a deterioration of heart cells resulting in heart failure. Typically, this condition manifests in the elderly, rarely in children, yet medical professionals theorized it represented a congenital pathology. He discovered that on that fateful evening, Rula's sister, Dimitra, had stayed overnight, with both women sleeping together. Around 7:30 a.m., the infant awakened. Her mother arose and offered her a pacifier. They then returned to sleep. At 11 o'clock, he learned they entered the nursery to rouse Iris, but she exhibited no vital signs. He learned Rula frantically telephoned her husband, imploring him to arrive as quickly as possible. Concurrently, she herself attempted artificial respiration to stimulate the baby's heart, but after multiple failed efforts, she finally opted to call an ambulance. An hour later, paramedics reached the scene and pronounced her deceased, noting her body was already cold and showing signs of rigor mortis. The second child's death prompted numerous inquiries regarding the mother's actions, specifically why Rula did not immediately summon an ambulance, but instead attempted resuscitation herself. He recounted her explanation: "I call my husband." He considered that valuable time had been squandered. Perhaps the infant could have been rescued. Rula justified her conduct by claiming she was disoriented, only realizing the necessity of calling an ambulance after an hour had passed. The family was now left with a single child, their eldest daughter, Georgina. He observed the couple's relationship had already been severely strained prior to Iris's death, and this subsequent grief had further driven them apart. He noticed familial difficulties were escalating, and their circumstances seemed to be leading toward divorce. The eldest daughter, too, began experiencing health issues. 15 days following Iris's death, Georgina was admitted to the hospital suffering seizures. Medical staff spent 40 minutes working to stabilize her, and through the doctor's extraordinary efforts, the girl was revived. He learned she received a diagnosis of heart failure, which necessitated the subsequent implantation of a defibrillator and pacemaker. Subsequently, he noted she remained under close medical supervision and was readmitted to the hospital on multiple occasions, diagnosed with encephalopathy of unknown etiology. Georgina continued to experience seizures, the origins of which medical professionals could not ascertain. Following a neuropathologic examination, a decision was made to transfer the girl to a different medical facility. Yet abruptly, on January 29, 2022, 9-year-old Georgina died. This incident shocked everyone present. Her passing proved particularly perplexing because, outwardly, the girl appeared to have no underlying health complications. As medical professionals endeavored to save the girl, her mother, Rula Pisperigu, unexpectedly declared to all, "She's gone. Leave her. Cease your efforts. It's futile." He heard her state, "Georgina isn't returning. She's endured enough and would prefer to rest." Concurrently, he observed the woman displayed no visible distress, which perplexed the medical team. Hours following Georgina's death, Rula posted on her social media profile, "I bore you. I gave you life, but I am angry at you for leaving my arms barren. You were my pillar, the source of my laughter, the impetus that gave me strength to persevere. You were a fighter until your final breath. You smiled. You gazed at us, though unable to speak. And in our eyes, you found solace. Farewell, my child. May your reunion with your sisters be sweet. For me, you have never departed, nor will you ever. I cherish all three of you." He noted the woman possessed tattoos commemorating her children. Her inaugural tattoo was acquired after Georgina's birth, and she subsequently got tattoos in tribute to her other two daughters after their passing. He found the deaths of the three daughters appeared exceedingly suspicious. They had occurred in succession over a span of 3 years. In each instance, the girls' health offered no premonition of their demise. Medical professionals initially conveyed optimism regarding a swift recovery, only to express profound astonishment at the fatal conclusion. This generated considerable skepticism among the populace. Some speculated the Pisperigu family was cursed and supernatural forces were responsible for these fatalities. However, medical practitioners rejected this theory and reached out to law enforcement officials, who resolved to probe these deaths. Investigators concentrated on the death of the eldest girl, Georgina, possessing all requisite information, and the child's remains to conduct further examinations and ascertain the truth of the matter. He noted investigators conducted interviews with the physicians who had attended to Georgina. This included 20 doctors from 5 hospitals located in Athens and Patras. Discrepancies emerged between the accounts provided by the medical staff and the mother. The doctors asserted that something peculiar was amiss with the child. Initially, they hypothesized Georgina suffered from a cardiac issue, but subsequent findings negated this, confirming the girl possessed no heart problems. He observed her mother consistently reported seizures and neurological complications, yet examinations revealed no evidence supporting these claims. The medical team diagnosed gastroenteritis and psychological distress, attributing them to the deaths of her two younger sisters, and discharged her. However, Georgina was subsequently readmitted to the hospital with renewed seizures. He found that no one could pinpoint the exact nature of her illness. Consequently, plans were made to transfer the child to another hospital for a more comprehensive assessment. Nevertheless, time ran out. The girl died, despite appearing outwardly healthy. Nurses who had cared for the girl in the hospitals where she resided were interviewed. They corroborated the doctor's statements, expressing their inability to comprehend what might have transpired. He learned the girl had confided in them shortly before her demise, stating she felt as though she had a bomb in her stomach ready to detonate. Georgina was visibly distressed and attempting to process the deaths of her two sisters, Melina and Iris. He understood she also harbored a profound fear that a similar fate might befall her, a concern she articulated to the medical personnel at the hospital. He observed Rula and Manos presenting a united front for a period, disavowing any involvement in their children's deaths. They anticipated multiple interviews where they sought to alleviate suspicions, recounting the profound tragedy they had endured. Both repeatedly used the word suddenly to underscore that their children had passed away instantly, without explanation, and with no prior indication of anything amiss. He heard the mother describe one of the children. Suddenly in her sleep, she tried to breathe, but couldn't. He learned that toxicology tests yielded no findings, as stated by Father Aberis. A physician affirmed the child had no cardiac issues, he reported, referring to his eldest daughter's sudden passing. Nevertheless, the inquiry persisted. It became evident that Rula had been present with her children during all three of their deaths. Yet, the woman dismissed the significance of this fact. Rula declared, "I'm the children's mother. That is why I was constantly with them. Why are you so astonished? Do not speak nonsense." The father, meanwhile, attributed all blame to the medical professionals. He questioned how all diagnostic tests could be favorable, the child healthy, and then suddenly succumb. He concluded, therefore, that the treatment must have been incorrect. Subsequent toxicology examinations following the girl's deaths came back clear, detecting nothing untoward. However, he noted these tests were performed according to a standard protocol, screening only for the most prevalent substances. Consequently, the determination was made to execute supplementary, advanced examinations that are not typically part of standard procedure. As I have already conveyed, in the second instance involving the infant's demise, Rula delayed in summoning an ambulance. He also discovered that in the initial case, the death of her middle daughter Melina, she likewise did not immediately call for assistance. He observed the woman did not contact the nurses until 35 minutes later, by which time the body had already begun to cool. This raised the question, why did it take the woman so long to seek help? It was revealed that the medical examiner, in his report, had noted minor scratches on Melina's nose. Could these have indicated a struggle? Further examinations uncovered elevated concentrations of ketamine in Georgina's system, reaching 6 times the anesthetic threshold. He understood this substance is not available in standard pharmacies and is challenging to procure. It could not have been consumed inadvertently, nor was ketamine utilized during her medical treatment. It was ascertained the drug was administered to Georgina approximately 20 minutes before her demise. The perplexing question arose, who could have given it if medical personnel did not? Medical staff had last checked on the girl roughly an hour prior to her death. The mother was the sole individual present in the hospital room during her eldest daughter's final moments. Thus, she became a primary suspect in the murder. Subsequently, the remains of the other 2 girls were exhumed. While they tested negative for ketamine, the medical examiner's report, dated June 20th, 2022, concluded that both children, 3-year-old Melina and 6-month-old Iris, died from asphyxiation, classifying their deaths as homicides. He learned that a blood-stained handkerchief which had been removed from the family home, was discovered near the infant Iris's body. Rula adamantly requested the return of this handkerchief, but was refused. On Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, as 33-year-old Rula Pispergo was with her sister at her Patras residence, law enforcement officers arrived and placed her under arrest. Given Rula's medical background, he understood she possessed the means to acquire the drug, implying she acted with full awareness and intent. Investigators also unearthed evidence that she had attended criminology seminars several years prior. The arrested woman's sister, Dimitra, expressed disbelief that Rula could be culpable for the children's deaths. She stated, "I don't believe Rula would harm her daughters unless they died of natural causes. If someone else is responsible for their deaths, let him face punishment." Rula's sister asserted that during Iris's death, while she was present in the house, she neither heard nor witnessed anything suspicious. Individuals acquainted with Rula characterized her as cold, callous, and devoid of emotion, leading them to believe she might indeed be capable of such an act. During the inquiry, he discovered an entry in the eldest daughter's notebook where she had inscribed, "Mommy, you are cruel." Neighbors recounted witnessing Rula brutally assault her eldest daughter during her infancy. They reported this to the police, who then forwarded the complaint to social services, leading to the family being placed under observation with periodic home visits for monitoring. Within Rula's phone, a message sent the day before Georgina's death was uncovered, stating, "See what happens tomorrow." This specific finding became one of the most crucial pieces of evidence, pointing toward her culpability. Following Rula's arrest, her husband, upon being informed of all the incriminating evidence, became persuaded that his wife was indeed responsible. He initiated divorce proceedings. The man expressed shock at his wife's actions and struggled to comprehend her motives. Manos disclosed that at the time of Georgina's death, Rula was once again pregnant, but he harbored suspicions it was not his child, given their prolonged period of separation in the marital bed. Subsequent to Georgina's death, the woman promptly terminated that pregnancy. Manos theorized she had engaged with another man to provoke his jealousy. He also expressed doubts regarding his paternity of their middle daughter Melina and youngest daughter Iris. Upon being informed of the divorce proceedings, he observed Rula became profoundly distraught. She communicated via text to a friend her desire to cast a spell on her husband to prevent him from leaving her. The woman appeared to be in an altered state. He learned that 2 weeks prior to Georgina's death, her husband had suggested divorce, and Rula had sought the aid of fortune tellers in an attempt to retain Manos. However, these efforts proved fruitless. He pondered, what then could be the motive? Initially, the theory that Rula suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy was entertained. This condition describes a disorder where parents or caregivers intentionally inflict a painful ailment upon a child or vulnerable adult, such as a disabled individual, or fabricate symptoms for the purpose of seeking medical attention. However, this theory found no confirmation. He later discovered that Manos maintained an extramarital affair. The woman was aware of his infidelity and had contemplated divorce herself. Rula, for her part, exerted every effort to retain her husband. It is plausible that she sought to either draw attention to herself and bring her husband back to the family, an aim in which the death of her first child seemed to assist, as they genuinely bonded. Alternatively, he considered she might have intended to retaliate against him in this manner. Rula's sister disputes this narrative. She asserts that she had advised Rula to divorce Manos due to their marital discord. She claims Rula grasped the situation but resisted divorce for the sake of the children. Yet, the sister expressed her disbelief that Rula could be capable of such actions. The psychiatrist who consulted with Rula drew the following conclusions regarding her character. He noted her thoughts revolved entirely around her husband. She exhibited fixation, obsession, and intense jealousy towards other women. He understood she perceived her children as mere narcissistic extensions of herself, demonstrating a lack of comprehension regarding their fundamental developmental requirements. Subsequent to Rula's arrest, an enraged crowd of approximately 500 individuals converged upon her home advocating for the death penalty against the woman for the alleged murder of her 3 children. He learned the suspect's mother, sister, and other relatives were present in the residence at that time. Inscriptions reading death to child killers were scrawled across their apartment window. Furthermore, a cryptic note, pinned on gauze, materialized on the wall. I should have allowed you to die. Forgive my fellow spirits. I was unaware I had saved a murderer. I apologize, I am sorry, I cannot fathom it. The individual responsible for leaving this note was never identified, though the handwriting is generally thought to belong to a woman. The trial in this case continues. Rula Pisperigu is presently held in solitary confinement within a VIP cell, complete with various amenities. For security considerations, he understood she is prohibited from interacting with other inmates. She remains under surveillance due to concerns she might attempt to end her own life. Rula has been formally charged with the murder of 3 children. The woman steadfastly continues to refute all accusations. Rula asserts she is a victim who has suffered the loss of her children, her husband, and her liberty. She maintains absolute certainty that this situation is a grave error, and he expects her to be acquitted, released from detention, and eventually reconcile with Manos. He observed she has yet to accept the divorce. Rula's former husband desires no further association with her. He is currently involved with another woman, and they are making plans for a wedding and express a wish to start a family. I will continue to track the developments of this case and will report on the final verdict.